So today will be the second JustChess development session, and I will try to clean up the front-end code and make it less messy. After the last stream, I have made this diagram which shows the process of parsing and serving the templates. And while making this diagram, let me just show you this full diagram here. Maybe even make like this. And while making this diagram, I was thinking about the connection between template files and scripts. I have come to conclusions that it might be better to avoid using bundlers such as Webpack for now to maintain a cleaner and simpler workflow. So yeah, the goal is to implement the design visualized on these diagrams. I also want to address that today I will be speaking less maybe than in the previous stream to focus more on code. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump into the code editor, and I will begin by removing the unnecessary old stuff. So first I will delete the bundles folder. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, fonts I think will be good to keep. Script sounds, stockfish styles. Okay, let's go ahead and remove basically. Yep. And so I have made this. So first of all, let me just show you what templates contain which content. So basically each page will which have its own template file, and this template file will contain a set of graphical user interface elements. And some multiple pages can share similar, say, components, which will have its own templates. All right, so as you can imagine, each HTML page will have the set of similar elements and metadata such as HTML head tag, and I want to extract that similar common data into a layout.template file. So let's create firstly the layout.template file. Let me go ahead and to the templates folder and create layout.template file. So it will have the kind of like common HTML skeleton. So I will just grab the existing parts from my GitHub. So yeah, let me just make sure that we are on correct branch. So we are on dev. All right, it seems to be good. Let me go ahead. Yep. So in the head tag we will have title, and each page will have its own title. So we will pass the title in the page template and kind of use it here by typing block. So block is, let me just find the documentation about block. Template block. So here is an example of using blocks. Basically, in a first template we are using block list, and in the second template we define the content of this block, and that way we can define we can kind of like nest templates and extract reusable components from it. I hope that makes sense. So I will just grab this head data. It will be any different from the previous version of frontends. All right, so everything looks great. Yep, here we go. So, but in the body I will kind of make, so yeah, so for the layout.temple we will have header footer, and main container. Let's make header. And I think header will be good to copy. I don't have any problems with this implementation, so let me just quickly grab it. Yep, looks good. So, all right. So here I was including or linking the bundle.js script in the layout in the base.temple. But for now, as I will not use bundlers, I think I will. So I think I will make the stuff like each page will include its own script. And here we will basically include the page template. Right, seems good. Not sure about that one. Actually, not sure. Let me just make it like this. And for the styles, let's make a folder called styles. And let's include the layout.css. So as for file hierarchy, I think so basically each template will have its each page, sorry, will have its own page of the name of the page and .temple file, and in the styles the project hierarchy will be the same. So here we will have slash pages, and basically it will be home.css and so on and so forth. And for the script, the situation will be, I think, similar. Yeah. And basically this template file, which will include the script file and the CSS file. And this script will include the optional modules or some additional assets such as sounds, and basically that's it. And with the use of ECMAScript modules, we can now simply include modules and manage dependencies without any bundlers. So I want to try that before jumping into bundler usage. Oh, fine, thank you. All right. Okay. So yeah, let's make a first point of the code where we will. I actually want to remove this stuff and begin from very scratch. So I will make web.go page structure. So each page will contain the parse template, template. Yeah, actually make sure that the Go imports the HTML/template package and not text/template, as text/template is not safe for the HTML usage. Yeah, it will have the player data, tb.player. So I think for now, oh, okay, so we also need to have data. It will be arbitrary data to fill up the template. Hope that makes sense. All right. I'm not sure whether to make this page exportable, so I will make it not exportable for now. And we will write a comment that page represents the served HTML page. Or maybe HTML, I don't know, documents. Right, so we will also need to define the service, which will, so service serves the page or maybe handles HTTP requests by serving the page. Hope that makes sense. So we will need to define the storage of the parsed pages. So I think the map will be fine, where string will be the name of the page and basically value will be the page structure. Maps page name or maybe page URL to page. So basically that's it. We will also need to have the database player repository and it will be used. So player repo is used to fetch player profile data and fill up the player page. So the game repo is used to fetch game data and fill up the game page, whether it is engine or rated game. So and we also need to parse the pages. So how do we parse the pages? First of all, we need to read files from the templates directory. And in order to read the file, so we will pass pages here, pages map string pages. So first of all, we need to parse pages, func parse pages. And it will return map with a string and page. So how do we parse the pages? We need to read the templates directory. As I remember correctly, there is a function called, let me just go to the documentation of operating system package, and maybe readdir. Readdir reads the name directory, returning all its directory entries sorted by file name. Okay, seems as something that we want to do. Let me just grab this code from the documentation. Alright, so we are located, as I remember correctly, in the CMD folder by default, so we need to go. Oh no, we are located where the go.mod file is located. So we will need to go under scope web and templates. So this will give us the template files, templates. Reads the name directory, returning all its directory entries sorted by file name, if an error. So basically, I think we will not, as we will have the pages folder in the templates folder, we will need to read that. So templates, pages. Let's quickly create a home.temple page. So it will define the title as home. And it will define the layout or the actual content, maybe. Content will be more appropriate name. Content. Let me just quickly make sure the syntax is correct. Yep, seems to be fine. So let's make like header and say home page. So we will need to parse the templates, and it returns slice of os.dir entry. Let me check what is dir entry. So dir entry is an entry read from a directory. It has names, which is the name of the file, described by the entry. So for example, name will return hello go, not home gopher. Okay, so it returns the name of the file, which is kind of fine. So for t in range templates, let's make a map pages, make map string page, and it will be the length of templates. So pages t.name. We also want to exclude the, so let's say page name is the name of the template file, excluding the page name is equal to the template file name, excluding the temple extension. Alright, seems nice. So the .temple extension contains 5 characters, so we can simply do something like length of t.name minus 5. I guess it should be fine. So let me just basically print those names as for now. Page name. However, I will use the log package. And we will return the pages here. So let's go to the main function and check this. Yeah, I should probably make the page exported structure maybe. Or I shouldn't. I don't kind of know at this point. Yeah, we definitely want to pass the path name in as the parameter. basically pass, which should be fine. Okay, let me just say web parse pages, web templates pages. All right. Let me go ahead and run the necessary services. Pulls up db mailpit. No, I want to run them without. All right. All right, let's run. Open web templates, emails, email sign up, no such file directory. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me just, comment this out. All right, everything. Yeah, we now have the successfully read the home file, which is nice. Let's continue by parsing the actual template. So let's parse the template. As I remember correctly, in order to parse the template, we need to go to the documentation, HTML/templates. It's kind of weird. HTML template, yeah. So we need to parse files. Yeah, so we basically need to call template.parse files, and the file names should be pass plus t.name, I think, and we will have temple and error. So if it kinda may return an error, so we will add the return type here, and here we will return nil. But if there is an error, we will return nil and that error. So, and in the main function, pages error, and if error is not nil, we will simply panic. So let me just make this unused field by default. Alright, so we have page name and we have that stuff. So after everything is parsed, we will need to add this template to the pages map. So no, we will need to create a new page with template being temple, and player and date will be filled up in the request handler. This field should be filled up, should be defined maybe in the request handler, and this also. So yeah, should be like this. Alright, let me check what we have here. Yeah, we have panic because templates, pages. Alright, so we need to add the leading slash. Basically, it should be like that. Let me actually check whether I can add the slash in main like this or no. Seems Yeah, we can add the slash here, so I don't need this. And we have, okay, but we don't have the home folder, so maybe I shouldn't do this stuff. Yeah, I think I should just add slash here. Wait a second. Am I tripping? Let's set a breakpoint here and see what we got. Alright, so yeah, it works with the slash in the path. And we have a parsed template without any errors, which is kind of good. So yeah, now the home page contains a parsed template. Yeah, it's dope, it's dope. So basically now we, according to the diagram, so read a file from the templates directory, read a required component templates from components directory. So for now we don't have the required components. Add the required functions, which we will do later on. Parse the template, the files into a template, which we do here. And store it in a map with a key equal to the page name. Yeah, it seems fine now. All right. So everything is good. Let me check the chat real quick. All right, seems fine. So parse pages parses the template, so parses the page for each template file contain which the specified folder contains. And now that we have a parsed pages, we should have the. Alright, actually, I think that we should return the templates, not pages here. So we should call it parse templates. And here we should return pointer to a template slash dot template. Yeah. And this way we can leave page unexported, as it will not be used in any other package. So templates. So page templates. Let's be more specific. And after that we can initialize the web service. Web new service. Page templates. Yeah, we need to convert the page templates to pages. So what am I doing now is I am implementing this specific part of the serving diagram. So I kind of want to make sure the template is parsed correctly and see it in my browser. Oh, hold on a second. I generally forgot to parse the layout template, which is very stupid. So before parsing every HTML template, we need to parse the layout as it will be used in every page. So here we should add the step, basically parse the files into a template. So including beginning with the layout.template. Yeah, so in the old version I created a base.template empty template, then added common functions, then parsed, yeah, so and beginning with the base template. So here I will do the same thing. So we need to define the layout path and folder path, and here we will have the layout path. And here we will have folder path. So that way we will include the layout template and parse it with the page template. So let me go ahead and make the constant variables out of this. So here we will pass the layout template and here we will pass the page templates. So here we will, okay, so it is declared on not use, let's use it. So with, if I can type correctly, register roads. And we will pass the yep, here we are. All right. So now we should pass the layout template, parse the layout template also, not just the page templates. Let me check. Open web templates pages home template. All right, so I forgot to add the leading slash. So no errors, which is cool. That makes us more confident. So now we should be able to surf the page and see what we got. Home.template. Or do I need that? Do I need that? How do I render the page? I already forgot this. Let me refresh my memory. All right, so template execute, right? Template execute. And we pass the data object here. So we need the page. P will be page. So p dot template dot execute response writer, and p itself is a data object, and it returns an error. So basically we will handle that error. So it will basically, yeah, we don't need this function, I think. we can simply do this here. So we'll declare the error, and the error will be s.pages home. Maybe I should even do something like that. P will be s pages home, and now we will execute the template. Page itself, error, so I don't need this stuff. And if error and error is not equal to nil, then we will basically we'll print that error and render the rendering and respond with the rendering error message. Maybe it is fine. So I will declare. So this will be the declaration of error messages. MSG rendering error string. The requested page wasn't rendered successfully. So let's respond with that. MSG response writer MSG rendering error HTTP status internal server error. Seems fine. And if it was successful, if this operation was successful, we don't need to do anything. The response status will be written automatically by the execute function. So let's check this out, basically. Shall we check this out? So let's go to the HTTP localhost 335, and yep, we have home page, and we also have the header stuff, and we also have the page title being correct. So congratulations, we have made the first part of the symphony. I would say I will call this by that word. So now we can keep adding the template files, but we should also make them more more complex than that stuff. So let me go ahead and create the components folder, maybe. So yeah, components folder. So components folder will be used by the sign in, sign up, reset password, leaderboard, and other pages. So let's create the sign in page, for example. So sign in.temple will define the title as sign in and define the content hold on, give me a sec. Alright, so let's continue. So we will define the content as we should have a form, and this form will be reused by the sign in and sign up pages. So as you can see, sign in has this form and sign up page has the same form but with some additional fields. So I think it will be good to create a common form component which will provide access to optional fields. So let's create a form.temple file and define the form components. And this component will be the basic HTML form element with ID being, I don't know, let's say form components or something. So it should have additional fields. So it should have the password field all the time in each case. So I will go ahead and use it. So let me check how I did that. Alright, so I had a form section class. Seems nice. Form section. It has a form input label and the actual input stuff. And also an error. Okay, this seems pretty nice. So I will grab this piece of code. So yeah, we have label, we have a wrapper around the input to kind of allow this button here. And we also have an invisible by default error message. So let me just check the name. So form section, or maybe form field should be a better name for that. This should be form input label, form field label. This should be form input field input container, or not container but wrap. Let's say this like this. Alright, form field input wrap. It's fine. So I think password input should be fine. Type password, name password, autocomplete off, placeholder. That's nice. So this will be password visibility toggle. Let me check the spelling. Yeah, toggle, nice. Okay, so this field is 100% required in each form. Also, I see that email address is also reused. So let's grab this stuff and paste it here. This should be email. For this stuff, we will need email input. Change this to email and the name to email as well. Let me check. Yep, type text. I think type email should be fine. Do input HTML element have email type? Yes, it has email type. I think we should use that instead of the default text. So the placeholder will be magnus@carlsen.com or something. Carlsen, alright, seems fine. But we don't need to have this container actually, so I will delete this. So yeah, we have two default elements, and we should also have the optional element, which is the username. So I don't know how to do that, so we need to, yeah, so we can use something called branching in template files. So the syntax is basically like this: if, else, and end. Here you put the condition. We don't need the else branch, so I will remove that, and here we will put the condition, basically something like is password, or sorry, if username field defined, maybe something like this, username field, or has a username field. But the most problematic thing is that we cannot pass any properties from the page to the component. So this should be passed from the goal itself, which is actually kind of okay too. This should be in data, I suppose. This should be definitely in data. So we will define the data in here. Something like type form data should be fine, or maybe just form, and it will has the has username field boolean flag, username field. So form represents the data used to fill up the form.temple component. The form component template defines whether the form component includes the username input field. Seems fine to me. So if .data has username field, we will require the username field as well. So for that one we will use, let me just make the indentation. So this will be name input, type will be default text, name, alright, let's say username, and the default will be Magnus Carlsen. Of course, who else can it be? So this will be form username error, this will be form email error, and this will be form password error. Alright, seems fine, seems totally fine. So in the sign in page we will simply include this component by using stuff like templates, or so let me check. Yeah, basically template form should be fine. Template form should be fine. So basically, let's see. So we don't even need to have the different templates for sign in and sign up. It's kind of interesting, actually. It's kind of interesting. Let me think. Let me think about that. Oh, we do need to have, because it will have the different headers in this. So let me just make, so this will have the header called sign in will be welcome back or something like this. Welcome back, yeah. And then it will have the template form, and the sign up will have sign up.temple. It will be the same thing, but it will have create a new account, and then it will have the template form. All right, seems perfect. Seems reasonable, at least. So yeah. So we should now parse it. All right, so in order to parse it, we need to have something like branching here. So no, we will use switch for that, and we will switch between page name. And in case it is something like sign in, sign up, we will also include the here we should include the component stuff. Let me just check how to do that. I think I should make this function to work with pages rather than templates, because it is already coupled to the page logic. Let me think. No, that stuff should only parse templates. So, but how do we do that? How do we parse templates without... So here we should include the optional components. So maybe I should make stuff something like component name or something, or component path. How do we reach the required components from the components directory? Should I just include yet another parameter called components pass? And here we will have component is equal to components pass plus form.temple. And here we will use the component stuff. The problem is it might be empty. It may be empty. And we definitely don't want to parse the empty temple file because it will raise the error. So maybe it will be something called if component is empty, then we will do something like this. Let me just, temple will be pointer to a templates.template and error will be error. So basically, if there are optional components, parse them as well. And here will be parse only the page templates. Yeah, I definitely need to make stuff. So the thing is, I have not only the page templates, I also have the email templates, which is also HTML documents. So I want to split the logic between parsing them, because if we are parsing page templates, we have the layout, we have the component. And if we are parsing the email template, we have only the email template and only that thing. So I definitely need to make something called parse page templates and parse email templates in later on. But now I want to focus on page templates. But I don't want to make the page structure exported because it will not be used anywhere outside of the web package. So here I should return only the parse templates. Yeah, thing is definitely interesting. Alright, let me just rename this function. So yeah, basically here we define the components used by specific pages, define the component used by specific pages, and here we will, if there are optional components, parse them as well, and if there aren't, parse only the page template. Yeah. That way we should be able to have the components. I really hope so. So we will need to declare yet another constant component templates string web templates components. Alright, so what do we got here? It should now be able to parse the form component and include them to the sign in and sign up pages. Let me check that. So open no such file or directory. Basically it has all empty string, so we are trying to open the empty string. At which line is that? Main 45. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, yeah, I need to swap. Now it should work. Right, let me check that. Go to the sign in pages. So sign in page has the form component and doesn't have the username field. And sign up, it has everything, but I mistype the, so here should be username. Yep, here we go. So everything works as expected. However, I'm not so satisfied with this branch in here. It seems to me that there should be definitely some cleaner way to implement that. Maybe there are, but I'm missing them. Alright, what about time? We have 1 hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, I kind of don't want to make streams too long, because I'm getting tired fast enough, so maybe I'm not so sure. Let's find a way to make this code cleaner and end for today. And I will continue with the. All right, let's finish this stuff by cleaning up that stuff, and maybe it is enough for today's stream. So yeah, the logic is like this. So we have to read the file from the templates page directory, because all page templates are stored there. Now, after we read the file, we need to find out whether this specific page uses any components. So if it uses, so basically it should be like that. All right, I need to make this. So does this specific page uses components? If it does, we need to parse the component as well as the page template. So if it does, and if it doesn't, we will need to parse the page template only. And in case it doesn't. So this stuff should look like that. And now and later on we should move to that thing. So So this stuff should be something, should look something like that. Yeah, this looks more realistic. Okay, hold on. Let me just check what does it return. Sign up. All right. So maybe I should when we are what is that? So when we are parsing the templates, I should definitely include the leading slash here. Leading slash here, yeah. That way we can avoid doing that stuff. If not exists, and so if request URL path is equal to this, maybe I should simplify this and make it here. So if page name is equal to home, page name is equal to this stuff. And this is a special case. Home page should be resolved as should be accessible by slash URL. Yeah, now I can simply check does the page exist. If it doesn't exist, we will return that stuff, and that's basically it. Yeah, this seems fine. So yeah, the last thing is to clean up this stuff. So I don't like this because, you know, we need to find a way to make it cleaner. So define the component used by define the component used by specific pages. Yeah, this is fine, basically. This is fine. But what about that one? Can we just simply, we can leave it as this, but don't know about that one. Yeah, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. All right. Right now, I don't have any thoughts about how to make it less like. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm overly engineering stuff. So yeah, for today's stream, we have successfully parsed the templates and the templates which use components in them. So I think the goal is not achieved, but we're getting there. And on the next stream, we will continue with actual JavaScript stuff, I think. So off stream, I will maybe add all the required pages and components here. So the process will remain the same as I showed you there. I will just add some components and come back to you guys with actual interesting JavaScript stuff going on. So hope that sounds great. Yeah, so maybe for today I will over the stream. So I wish you a good day and thank you for joining me. See you.